And Dr. King's dream is being realized, although not yet. We're not yet there. And I make speeches often about how sad and unfortunate it is that the populace, the general public, is silent in the face of what they know to be wrongdoing. It isn't quite the speech I was going to give you today, but this
it's good. We like it.
spirit has moved me. And so, I talk about how in 1942, 120,000 Japanese Americans were summarily imprisoned and their property confiscated because they were Japanese Americans. This is not a fate that befell German Americans or Italian Americans, just Japanese Americans. You see, they look different. And it's just been, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years ago, our country got around to formally apologizing. And they paid them a pittance to the survivors. There's been lots of situations in our history where things were wrong and we knew them to be wrong, but people were just did not speak up. And you might say, well, where am I going with this? Well, in Haiti, these amazing people, slaves who defeated Napoleon. They did. They did. And these folks, during the days of Divaye, Papa Doc and Baby Doc, and bad people, really bad people. And so some folks sought to flee. They were refugees, and they sought to get to this country. And if they made it through the shark-infested waters to our shores, they ended up in something akin to concentration camps. And you see, if it could be established that they were fleeing political oppression, they'd be entitled to political asylum, and they would let them come on in. But if it were merely economic oppression, then that's just tough. That's too bad. And so the number 2 or 3 man injustice, the United States Department of Justice, was dispatched to Haiti to determine whether or not they were fleeing economic oppression or political oppression. And this man came back and reported, in the days of Divaye, mind you, these really bad people, came back and reported that they were merely fleeing economic oppression. This man was Rudolph W. Giuliani. I kid you not. I kid you not. Now the point of all of this is today, in 2010, the man in the White House immediately recognized what a devastating thing this was. And so President Obama and President Clinton and President Bush have joined together to help raise funds, recognizing how bad that thing is. So we have come a long way. Time was, and we said, oh, that's just economic oppression. We did some bad things in our time. There was a ship named the St. Louis. It was bearing Jews fleeing the Nazis. And our country wouldn't let that ship dock in this country. And so the ship was turned around, went back, and a lot of those people died in concentration camps later. Now, people knew this was wrong, but the general population was silent. Apartheid in South Africa. You know what our government, the formal position was constructive engagement. Ain't that a kick in the head? Constructive engagement. And so I was pleased when I became mayor, we took some steps to take care of some of that with sanctions. And Madiba, Nelson Mandela, has told me that what we did was the right thing. It helped. And although I had people came to me during that time and said, you know, you think you're helping these folks, but you're not. It's wrong what you're doing. Well, Madiba came to me and told me that what we did was right and it helped. And people ask me, as you might imagine, well, what were the mistakes you made when you were mayor? They always want to know what mistakes you made, and what's your greatest victory and things like that. And I tell them that I can't describe the feeling to watch Nelson Mandela descend the steps of that plane at JFK. He came here in 1990. First stop. See? Yes, that's right. First place he came outside the country was to New York. And we had a ticker tape parade. He spoke at Yankee Stadium, stayed with us in Gracie Mansion. The ANC just took over Gracie Mansion for a week. And I said to my wife, I said, you know, I don't think he's going to be fit in that bed because there's a small suite. And I was concerned. And she said, oh, no, he'll fit. I said, no, I don't think so, honey. And the reason I didn't think he would fit was that in my mind, he was 10 feet tall. No, really. I've looked at photographs of him standing next to Bill Clinton, and Clinton is slightly taller. But you see, I was concerned and worried about that. But what a wonderful human being he is. And he, I got to tell you, is the same always. Whether playing with my grandchildren, I'm sorry, Joy, our grandchildren, or being examined by Ted Koppel. Ted Koppel challenged him. He said, yeah, but the communists. And Madiba looked at him and said, they were the only ones that helped us. Next question. But there have been times in our history, so many times, when good, decent people were silent in the face of wrongdoing that they knew to be wrong. Well, Dr. King was not one of those people who were silent. He spoke up, as this audience certainly knows. He was killed in Memphis, down there, to help protest against sanitation workers' bad treatment, and gave his life. One of his top aides was Andrew Young, and Andy Young and I were classmates at Howard University. And of course, Jesse Jackson was there, and Wyatt T. Walker, people that we all know who were there, and Dr. King gave his life. And so as we each year talk about Dr. King's legacy, as you might imagine, the press asks a lot of questions, and they sometimes seem to want to find a, quote, new question, because they've all been asked before. If not of me, they've asked them of others. And so they want to know, what's his legacy? I said, well, Dr. King's legacy is Percy Sutton and Charlie Rangel and Basil Patterson and you, Mr. President. You are all his legacy. And because of the wonderful things that he achieved and he accomplished, he refused, absolutely refused, to be defeated.